If I said the Eagles are making a mistake bringing back Nick Sirianni, is that fact or fiction?
That's fiction, G. Listen, I'm going to respect the fact that Nick Sirianni has been to a Super Bowl and got in the playoffs. Obviously, we know how this season ended and it wasn't pretty. Give him another year to see if he can fix it, bringing in new coordinators on both sides of the ball. Fiction right now. Too good in the first 2 years.
Like literally as we were talking about this yesterday, they fired their offensive coordinator.
Right.
I was sitting here in the middle of a conversation about what they need to do about their offense, and in that moment they fired their offensive coordinator. So this is the second consecutive year through completely different circumstances that they're going to change both coordinators. Last year, each of them got head coaching jobs.
Right.
This year, they changed the defensive coordinator midway through. That didn't go well. Now they fired the offensive coordinator as well. So there does seem to be a great deal of upheaval in Philadelphia.
If we're going to continue with the biblical references, Nick Sirianni don't got no disciples. That seems to be the problem. He has no coordinators that he seems to trust.
Yeah.
And also, one of the things that were concerning, while I agree with Marcus that they should have kept him, players didn't come to his defense in the way that you expect them to. And that's concerning to me because as we understand this organization is slightly different than others, is there's not as much power concentrated in the front office, or excuse me, in the head coaching role and you see in numerous organizations. So if he's not going to have much power, you're going to need these players to respect him and to appreciate him and show what his value is. If they're going to do a baseball style, like middle manager where the decisions are above him and he is really responsible for the interpersonal stuff, then where do people at?
Right.
Where do people at when things are which I think is hugely important.
That's not true. Fletcher Cox came out and was like, this is stupid. This guy is not going anywhere. Now, Jalen Hurts was asked the question. He said, I full trust.
Fletcher Cox went off a little bit. You're right.
Yeah, but Jalen was asked initially, he said, I have faith in everybody here. He was then asked, he had an event, he was asked and he specifically said, I believe in Nick Sirianni. I don't think Nick Sirianni has lost the locker room. But something is off in this building. This isn't like Dallas where it's one terrible playoff game and you're like, what happened? This was 2 months of watching this team not be able to right itself. So do you trust Nick Sirianni and whoever promoted Matt Patricia?
I think that's the question is, do you trust? I don't think it's Sirianni you're trusting. I think it's Roseman that you have to trust, right? Is he, because if he's the one who's really calling the shots of who we're hiring and who we're firing, if Desai was put down and Patricia was brought up because of what Roseman thought, or is this really Sirianni's? That's the question that I have, right? Is who really is making that call? Did Sirianni want to get rid of it? Because now you got 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years for Jalen Hurts. That's not just a level of continuity, right? And Johnson hadn't been calling plays, so we're all of a sudden just going to cast him out. By the way, Sirianni is an offensive guy. So what's he running that you don't want him to run? Step in, right? If that's your calling card, then step in and make that stuff happen. That's the part that's concerning to me.
Look, Swagoo, I defer to all you guys because you were all there. You've lived it, and I haven't. But if there's one thing I can recognize when a team has fallen apart and they're not coming back together again, when they're not all, use whatever cliche you want, pulling on the rope in the same direction.
Right.
And that unquestionably happened to this team. So whatever Fletcher Cox came out and said, whatever Jalen Hurts came out and said, I'm not listening to, because none of that was evident on the field at any point when they could actually do something about it. So you tell me, is that on the head coach or not?
Yeah, a lot of it goes to the head coach, G. I just refuse to believe that for me, all right, a coach that played in the Super Bowl and went to the playoffs this year deserves a benefit of the doubt to see if he can get it fixed going into next year. We know this team has a really good roster. And let me tell you something. I'm going to be honest with you. These coordinators were awful. They were awful. Now, Sirianni is a part of that. But when you go into a game, like we saw the difference in Shane Steichen and John DeGannon when they were there. They was having a tremendous amount of success. We asked questions all season long. What's going on with Jalen? Is he healthy? Why are they not running a very similar offense to what they ran last year? And I'm going to tell you this, man. Me, you, Jeff Saturday, Domonique Foxworth, and Kimberly Martin could have caught each for 100 yards a game if we was playing against this secondary. They got things that they have to do from a personnel standpoint as well. I'm not naive to that. So I get it. Listen, I am the last to defend coaches when we start talking about if they really bad or not. I'm not going to cast Nick Sirianni out. I think this conversation became prevalent when we saw the coaches that were available. That's why this thing jumped up to another level. Even like in Dallas, when you got Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel and Harbaugh, those guys being available, everybody, coach, is probably looking over their shoulder, that other than a few guys. But I think Sirianni is fine doing another year, and we'll see if he can get the coordinator spots
Bill Belichick is still available. No. Jim Harbaugh is still available. Mike Vrabel is still available.
Right. And they believe in Sirianni. Obviously, Roseman and Lurie believe in this, and it's going to stick.
They believe in him so much. He's having a press conference today, and no one has even come out and said he's still our coach.
Right. Well, he's going to be their coach. But
by the way, they fired Doug Peterson once upon a time after his season-ending press conference.
And they won the Super Bowl, right?
And their season ended 10 days ago, Jeff.
But the issue for Sirianni, I'm not saying he deserves to be fired, so hear me in the right way. But what I will say is this part. The identity of the football team definitely changed from 10-1 to the 1-7 run, right? And you saw offensively, they didn't have an identity. They didn't know what they were. Those things all come from an offensive, and whether you blame Patricia, but Slay even said, I think it was Slay who said, we don't know if we're doing Desai's thing or Patricia's thing. So that's in the middle of a season. So one guy gets elevated, you got to go whoever's getting elevated. That all, to me, is the vision that the head coach has to cast.
Okay, that's fine. But if you're not calling the offense and you're not calling the defense and the team is falling apart because they're splintering, then I'm not exactly sure what the coach is getting right. We're back on Get Up. Bottom of the hour, it has become an absolute disaster in Dallas. Let's go through all of it again. C.D. Lamb's mother posting on Facebook, among other things, that she wished her son, C.D. Lamb, would be traded, adding, quote, Dak isn't it, in all capital letters, and that the Cowboys need to get rid of him. Dak's brother, Tad, who is a friend of this show, has chimed in on X over the weekend. He posted, Cowboys fans who continue to DM me, trust me, if I could get Dak to leave Dallas, I would. Meanwhile, Micah Parsons' brother, Terrence, has gotten into the act, saying Dak needs to take a team-friendly deal, posting that Dak should, quote, take $40 million or pack your bags.
Pack your bags.
Micah Parsons responded to that, posting any comments made by Terrence Parsons Jr. are his and his alone, as you know. If I have something to say, I'm not afraid to say it. I love my team, my brothers on my team, and the city of Dallas, and I'm more committed than ever to bring a championship to the greatest fan base on earth. And so some of this is really impossible to believe. Noticeably absent from that comment by Micah Parsons is any very specific reference to Dak Prescott himself. And as I look through the comments again from C.D. Lamb's mother, she's responding to someone who wants her son, C.D., to go to Houston. And she writes, I wish he would. C.J. is great. Someone else questions Dak Prescott, and she writes to him, they need to get rid of his blank. It's guys on that team that want a ring. They work too hard. So
CJ is CJ Stroud, by the way.
What did I say?
You said CJ is great. I just didn't.
Oh, CJ Stroud, yeah, and Houston. So, I mean, this is no joke. And noticeably absent have been, in the 2 or 3 days that this has been bubbling over, any of Dak Prescott's teammates getting up and saying, this is nonsense.
Of the team.
Yeah, or the owner of the team, from whom everyone takes their cues, it seems. So all things Cowboy begin with our beloved Marcus Spears. You mentioned earlier, Swagoo, you heard criticism of Tony Romo when you were there. Now that, unless there's something I'm misremembering, was external. This is coming from inside the house. What is going on in Dallas?
They don't believe Dak is good enough to get to a Super Bowl. And that's the reality. And, gee, we had a conversation after this game. I'll get to the drama and the emotion after this, but we had a conversation after this game, and everybody laid blame, and rightfully so, because it was a lot to go around on Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn, and the defense gave up points. But it's just like I was saying when it comes to Josh Allen or Brock Purdy or Lamar Jackson, whoever. Dak Prescott holds as much responsibility for poor performances by the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs as anybody else, because you're paid and expected as the quarterback, based on the season we watch you have, to lift your team above some of these woes that you had going early, and absolutely not be a part of the problem when it comes to a pick six and an interception. And remember, another one was dropped by Devondre Campbell in the red zone. That would have been 3 on the day. I don't care about the stats. The stats are fluff. It's like shooting free throws at the end of a game. So that's the bottom line. Like, that's the reality of what happened against the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm not condoning the family members coming out and talking about it publicly, but that is frustration. That's how they feel. The one alarming thing to me is, and this was the point you made, G, is that the players, not one. I haven't seen CD. If he has, I apologize. I ain't seen him come to the defense of Dak. I haven't seen Michael Parsons come to the defense of Dak with his statement. And I live here, man, and I understand that Dak is a good quarterback. We talk about it all the time. But we're at a point now where you're going into year 9 or 10, whatever it is for Dak Prescott. Nobody's no longer concerned about you being a good quarterback. Everybody wants to find out if they have an opportunity to go win a big game and get to the Super Bowl. And that's the frustration that you're hearing coming out of people. So, look, man, it is what it is. This is Dallas. It's going to be a polarizing position in the NFL till the end of time. And ultimately, Ford comes up short in these situations. It took me a while to get here, but I believe this is who Dak Prescott is when all the chips are on the table.
This is split in the locker room. I'm just letting you know. And to Swagu's point of nobody coming out, nobody saying anything, here's the thing that I will say about Dak Prescott. This dude has handled himself as a great leader. Not a good leader, a great leader. This dude, listen, to be the Cowboys starting quarterback, you're going to take shots. Everybody knows it. Swagu just talked about Tony Romo. This is at a totally different level. And when people start coming out, I can tell you this. It had a player on the Indianapolis Colts done that to Peyton Manning, Jim Irsay. You would be in Jim Irsay's, no, not Bill Polian, Jim Irsay's office, bro. And you're signing your paper of goodbye. Thanks for being part of this squad. Like, you do not, that is a position that you do not attack. If you're and I don't care what anybody says, the reason that they're playing in those big games is because of Dak. So whether you love the guy, hate the guy, whatever it is, he's put you in a position to win 12 games the last 3 years. However you want to frame this thing. But to lay all the blame on one dude, last time I checked, LaFleur brought the freaking book out and put the spank down on that freaking defense where Micah Parsons is supposed to be Lawrence Taylor. I ain't seen Lawrence Taylor get boat raced like that, bro. Up and down the field all day long, can't slow it down, can't stop the bleeding, nothing you can do. And did Dak press and make bad plays? Absolutely he did. Was there an incredible interception? Of course there was. But when you take things personal, he ain't it, and you don't say, and I said this yesterday, the first thing I said, the first thing you do is go on what Michael Parsons did. Now, did he come out to Dak? But at least he said, I love my teammates, I did this. At least there was some kind of, that CD hasn't come out. That freaking Jerry Jones hasn't come out and said, this is my guy, this is our guy, we're going to build around this, this is how we do it. He just did it with Mike McCarthy. Yeah. He did it with a freaking coach that everybody's trying to run out of town, and he doesn't do it for a quarterback that's been there for freaking 10 years, bro. It's absolutely absurd.
It makes me sick, man, because I can't imagine them doing this to any other quarterback in football at this level. Frankly, I can't imagine them doing it to any other quarterback because put aside the conversation that I think Marcus was trying to have about how good Dak is or isn't. Like, I believe he's good enough to win a championship. He hasn't done it yet, but that doesn't matter. There's a basic level of respect that you show to your teammates.
Amen.
Nobody would do that to a cornerback, a linebacker, a tackle, and definitely not the franchise quarterback. And I think it goes back to Jerry Jones and generally how he's treated Dak Prescott. And I believe that some of the people see this writing on the wall and they believe that it is okay to treat the best quarterback that team's had since Troy Aikman. Treat him like he's just an average guy. And again, it doesn't matter how good he is. You don't do this to your teammates.
Amen.
You just don't. No. And I understand that it wasn't the teammates doing it. It was the family. Y'all need to step up and say something. And I think it's
be
all
a teammate.
connected. And Dak, he's not perfect by any stretch.
No.
But he came in as a fourth-round draft pick, as a rookie, and did enough to be good for this team. He's been good ever since and touched on great every now and then. And Jerry Jones rewarded him by pretending like he wasn't going to sign him, like he had another option, undercut him. The man spoke out on the opposite, on the wrong side of the kneeling Kaepernick stuff. He had your back, Jerry. Where are you at now? And that, I mean, it's repulsive to me that they could treat a human being like this that they work with and the teammate, and they're supposed to care about. I don't care how good you think he is. Don't come out and say he ain't it.
Yeah, and
that's crushing.
The attacks have been much more personal than they have been professional.
So when Dak takes, unfortunately, Dak takes so much hate and vitriol on a personal level throughout his career. Now he's being hit what I describe as friendly fire. I actually, the same way I felt about Mike Tomlin, like, okay, Pittsburgh fans don't want him. I wish he would go. So you could see what life without him would be like.
Yeah.
I almost wish Dak had a little bit of Domonique in him, where he would actually fire back and say, like, oh, word? Instead, he's the model. Like, he is just.
You don't ever take shots.
You don't ever. He's just sort of like, you know what? It's above me now. I wish he would. And I wish he would actually get out of Dallas. Because I don't know, because the narrative is he can't win the big one. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. He has a long career ahead of him. But if your own teammate's family is saying this, it reminds me of in Cleveland, like Odell's father going on Twitter and ultimately Odell wanted out of there. And it's like, these things, you wonder if you're Dak, it's like, what is CD saying behind the scenes? Because it's clearly not, oh, the reason I had this career year is because I was throwing you the ball. Like, clearly you're saying something else. It may not be CD telling his mom to say this or Micah telling his brother to say this, but this is the reality. In Dallas, everything is bigger. You have to know this is going to be an issue.
Poetic justice.
All right.
Sit on that 59 mil and bust that cap and sit around, bro. I'm telling you right, if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm petty. I'm petty.
Go ahead, Marcus.
1 second, man. Listen, bro, I got crazy-ass uncles. I had uncles that didn't want Tony Romo to be the quarterback. Obviously, they never went on TV and said it. Bro, these family members are emotional, all right? And that's why I pointed out the no defense is the problem. That's the problem. The players not having defense. I'm not going to get on TV and talk. That's like us talking about people that tell us we crazy on Twitter. The family members are mad. They mad. They emotional. They wanted to go to the Super Bowl, and they ain't got a damn thing with going there. They can't affect the play. They can't affect the way Dak plays, CD plays, or Micah Parsons plays. They are in their feelings about the Dallas Cowboys not winning, and Dak is the easy target for them to blame. The defense is obviously what we're focused on. Why haven't you guys came out and said, nah, Dak a real one? Dak is the quarterback. We feel like Dak can win a Super Bowl. Jeff, that's not your place to say. Foxy, it's not your place to defend Dak Prescott or Kimberly or mine. It's the organizations. And that is the real issue of the whole thing we talking about. Brother, I'm going to tell y'all this right now. It's been family members say worse about teammates. I'm sure that they have done it. This is public because it's the Cowboys. The problem is the non-defense. If you really are there with Dak, and this is what makes us think, if you really feel like that, CD and Micah and whoever else family member came out and said something, the public statement should be, nah, Dak is our guy. That's my guy.
That's right.
And we're going to roll next year and we're going to go try to win the Super Bowl. That should have been the statement and all this will be over with.
Exactly. And the silence has been deafening coming from there.